Loktargar friends. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Orc Mode workout. And today is Dynamic Effort Squat and Deadlift Day. And yes, I am doing slightly non-conventional lifts. Although not really, these are mainstays in the strength training world. But, people are going to have to get used to that. Yes, I do like 9 or 10, 11 different exercises. Still less than most of these guys on YouTube, still less than most bodybuilders and stuff do. But the thing that people need to remember here, the take home, that does not mean that you as a novice need to be doing this. There's a difference between advanced lifters and our needs versus novice lifters. Yes, by the way, I'm wearing my shorter shorts. I'm wearing jogging shorts. Figure I might as well train my legs. I might as well have them visible and wear a t-shirt. And that's the other thing, guys. Let's talk about the Orc Mode training here. That's the whole point. We want to look big in a t-shirt. I'm in a baggy t-shirt. Baggy t-shirt. It's all stretched out from training. All right? You still want to look big in it. You don't get that from doing silly shit like training your traps. You look big in your clothes. Pecs, lats, delts, quads, right? Those big muscles. That's what makes you look big. Traps don't make you look big in a shirt. Or any of this silly stuff that people worry about. Lats, chest, delts, quads. That's what makes you look big in your clothing. Back to the point though. Dynamic effort box squats. Actually, my calculation showed I probably needed to go about 10 pounds heavier than this, but I think that was being generous on it because these were not quite as fast as I would like. Now, some people are going to say, box squats. What's the point of a box squat? Well, it breaks up the eccentric concentric chain, right? You lose the stretch reflex. This actually, in a lot of ways, is better than doing normal pause squats if your goal is to build explosiveness, right? Building explosiveness out of the bottom. Because I think for me, especially someone like me who has pulled an erector recently while doing pause squats, that's actually how I pulled it, this prevents that posterior pelvic tilt from happening because you're sitting back onto the box. The box physically prevents it from happening. So we can maintain good alignment there, and then we have to come to a hard stop at the bottom. All right, this, again, it breaks up the chain there, the eccentric concentric chain. It removes your ability to really use a hardcore stretch reflex. It forces you to use the hamstring a little more to get it started out of the bottom. Again, we're building explosiveness. Plus, because if you notice the stance and the fact of where we stop, this is actually will build your sumo deadlift up. In fact, you guys will notice when I do the sumo deadlift, it's basically the same movement pattern. A wide stance box squat and a sumo deadlift are basically the same movement pattern. This will build your sumo deadlift, and of course your sumo deadlift will build your conventional deadlift. All right. So if we're going to talk about carryover on exercises, this is how we create synergies of things with carryover. And that's the other problem we run into. The more advanced you get, the harder it is to train the conventional deadlift with any volume. Now, I still do the conventional deadlift every week, but you can't do large amounts of volume on it unless you start cutting volume from other stuff like squatting. Well, the box squatting, again, will build my sumo. The sumo deadlift in some ways is slightly easier to recover from, a lot of coaches feel, than the conventional. So we're doing our speed work. We're going to do our speed work with the sumo. Of course, doing box squats beforehand. So it builds them. And then that will build my conventional up, and it'll build my squats up. So we're using these exercises to do that. These are slightly easier to recover from. And that's an important distinction to remember here. So I think people need to remember a box squat is easier to recover from because it's a more difficult exercise. You cannot use quite as much weight done correctly. I'm not talking about the high boxes you see people do. Sometimes on a high box you can get 50 pounds out of the box. But when you're coming all the way down deep to the same depth you do on your normal squat, it is more difficult. And it means a little less axial loading, easier to recover from. You can do slightly more training volume. Now, you guys will notice I am struggling to get the speed that I want because what are we doing with dynamic effort work? We're trying to lift as hard and as fast as we can on a 1 rep max, even with a lighter weight. You're trying to explode. Again, it's about compensatory acceleration. Well, that's pretty damn hard to do off of a box. When you're going to a dead stop to try to explode, and I am actually hearing the plates clang at the top, so I'm getting speed as I go because I'm having to accelerate faster as I bring the weight up. Just one reason I don't need bands right now, right? I don't need bands right now for this. I'm struggling already to get the speed that I want, and I am driving through at the top. I'm not getting the speed I want out of the bottom. So I'm not worried about bands until I develop the speed and explosiveness that I need out of the bottom of these lifts. And that's something people need to remember. Just throwing bands on arbitrarily isn't something you need to do with dynamic effort work. I've been doing so much higher rep work, at least high rep for me, 5, 6, 7, 8, that I've lost speed. And so I really need to develop speed, and I'm going to use the volume training of the dynamic work to do that while still getting my volume in. But you guys also see from things like the kettlebell swings, that's actually a lot of volume for stuff like my posterior chain. And actually my hamstrings were sore from the kettlebell swings yesterday, and so I skipped the good mornings. I realized I got enough hamstring and glute work and everything between these box squats, the 8 sets, and then the sumo pulls. And then all the kettlebell work, my posterior chain is done for the week. My hamstrings, I don't feel like they could handle a lot more. In fact, I really wish I could have done more sumo deadlifts, but my thumbs and my hands became the limiting factor, because this is a lot of my grip training too on these. So people are wondering, how did I calculate the weight for these? 85% of whatever I'm pulling conventional. And since I finally got my conventional back over 500 after that pull, it's the first time I tried over 500, we did 505 and it wasn't bad on Monday, so I'm going to work with 85% of that for singles as fast as I can pull them. Now, these aren't very fast, but sumo tends to be slow off the floor, right? So again, we're trying to develop speed, and it's hard to pull fast with a hook grip. Like when you try to get that hook set in right, and sometimes the initial first inches sets the hook in deeper. It's hard. And you'll notice on my third rep, I didn't chalk up enough. So the third single I did, I actually set it down as soon as I got it locked out. And it's because I forgot to re-chalk correctly, and it mattered. Like that chalk matters tremendously when you're doing this, especially the grip giving out. So, this is my grip training day in addition to being my speed sumo day. So it all kind of fits together with what we're doing. But yeah, I'm just pulling these as fast as I can with sub-maximal weight. And even then, it's not super fast, is it? I mean, again, that's normal. It's normal to be slow on sumos, which is why another reason to do it. We can do a lot of volume with it. We can try to build that speed, trying to build that explosiveness. And it's a lot harder after doing the box squats too, because it's like you lose so much of your peripheral nervous system from doing all the speed boxes. You're just finishing it off pretty much with something like this. And that's what I'm doing. And I can definitely feel that fatigue, and it's that struggle to build speed. It's that struggle to build speed on this. But again, we only get there by practicing it. We only get there by focusing on it. And again, the reason we do the lower reps on this stuff, even though it is sometimes lighter weight, because it's moderate weight, is because, again, we're trying to lift everything as fast as we can. That makes a big difference. That makes a big difference. The stuff I talked about last time is stuff I'll talk about more as far as compensatory acceleration, but this is tying in all the things I've talked about with research, right? I've talked about all the research on this cueing in the past in detail, and people say, well, what does this mean? How do you implement any of it? Well, this is how you implement it. This is it in practice, and this is not even my ideas. They're absolutely elite lifters and coaches who understand these things and have utilized these methods for decades now, right? Before we even had all that research on compensatory acceleration, the newer stuff. Then I did some cheat curls, and I went ahead and bumped the weight 5 pounds. And when I got to the third set, I couldn't even finish. I just hit failure after like 4 reps. I got my 8 reps on these cheat curls on the first 2 sets. Got to the third set, and that's it. I just hit failure. I was done. Biceps, peripheral nervous system, everything is done. It's like, we've done enough training. We're done. Just quit. Done for the day. That's enough work. Because again, you can only generate so much force, and at a certain threshold, even stuff like your cheat curls, your bicep work, will eventually start to give out, because again, it's kind of all I had for the day. It was a lot of work, especially considering every single rep was a speed rep. 8 sets of speed squats, 5 sets of speed pulls. Thumbs were hurting. Everything was just fatigued. It's like, we're done. But, again, it was still a weight bump, so we went up 5 pounds and at least got the first 2 sets. So that's still going to be a PR, probably seeing some bicep growth. So everything's good there. And, tomorrow we're going to have to row, so biceps are going to get used again. Why? Dynamic effort, pen lay rows, right? Another form of speed pull. It's going to be after the benching. And I will probably do floor presses for the speed work tomorrow, because I'm going to try to hit a floor press max come Monday. or I mean Tuesday. So that's where we'll go with that. So my biceps will be finished off tomorrow. They've got a lot of work this week between the max effort pull-up, triple, going to be the speed pulls, 2 days of curls. Biceps were pretty well done. Like, they remember what I said on Tuesday that my biceps were just lit up from those heavy pull-ups, right? They were lit up. And it wasn't the connective tissue, it was the muscle bellies. And I think even by today, maybe my biceps weren't even fully recovered from that, because we did the cheat curls, then we did the next day the heavy pull-ups, and that was only 2 days ago. So I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.